In a world where anything can happen, anything could happen, and anything does happen, we still ask, what if? These are the stories the Watcher has seen, for he sees all. Enough said. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is me skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Welcome back to What If? Season 1, Episode 3. What if T'Challa became a Star-Lord? The rough and tumble space pirates known as the Ravagers abduct T'Challa instead of Peter Quill. Our director this evening is Brian Andrews. Matthew Chauncey is our story editor. Let's get all these, because we get a lot of credits in this one. Let's see here. We got our Matthew Chauncey. So Matthew Chauncey gets our written by. Steve Gerber creates our Howard the Duck. Wow, they listed Steve Gerber first. Just to let you know how important Howard the Duck is this episode. Jack Kirby gets that Captain America by, along with Joe Simon a little later down. Val Merrick also gets a Howard the Duck credit. I guess he was doing the art for Steve at the time. Matthew Chauncey, a writer, is also the story editor. Had to do double duty because there's just so many people working on this who didn't actually work on it. They just created the characters. Steve Englehart and Steve Gann created Star-Lord. Jim Starlin created Thanos and Drax. All right. Man, this is a fun film. It is weird. I have to say that because it is beautiful and it is great and it's kind of weird because this is Chadwick Boseman's last, well, not his last because he shows up later in these stories, but, or the actor shows up. There's more that Black Panther does in our What Ifs, but, this is his last central starring role, we'll say, and it's kind of goofy and fun, which I do like, but it is also just like, oh man, that's it. That's Chadwick. That's how that's how he goes out. And it's, although, here's one thing I will say for those out there who do want to see Chadwick Boseman recast, this does open up an interesting opportunity for them if the Chadwick Boseman or if the Black Panther character gets voiced by another actor in a future What If series, then maybe it's a little easier if that gets well received to integrate that actor back into the role. So you can reverse engineer it that way. Obviously, no one was thinking that at the time, but it does open up that possibility, especially if Black Panther, and specifically this Black Panther, gets stories that go on from it. Man, it's.
Do you think they'll make Shuri?
It's beautiful and touching.
Black Panther?
Well, I mean, I don't. Oh, well, that's a whole other bag of hammers because the actress actually hurt herself and in stunts in the new film, and I'm just thinking, man, I do not need a Curse of the Black Panther going on here, man.
Right,
you know,
but
you do not want this.
It's encouraging to know that she's filming those kinds of scenes. That means maybe.
Well, yeah, well, it's
Black Panther,
Yeah, well, as people have said, that is stuff that's happened in the book. She's taken over, and that doesn't mean that T'Challa is gone forever. It just means that this story is moving somewhere and we have to move with it. It's like, when you say, well, could they ever bring Steve Rogers back? Yes, they could bring Steve Rogers back. Will it be Chris Evans? Maybe not. But, if they do a reusing and he has a slightly different face, we'll probably allow it because we'll understand why it happened and it's organic and it's in story. That's the thing. So long as they don't actively have a funeral for T'Challa in Black Panther 2, we'll always be able to welcome him back when the time is right.
Fair enough.
But this is this episode, and It opens up with, I got to be honest with you, it's a little weird in a world of humanoid actors who all look really human. Like Taserface, you can sort of say, I don't know, all Terrans look alike to me.
Yeah.
Maybe him. But really, when the guy who's actually bringing him back is an actual Terran, and it's not, and when he shows him the picture of Peter Quill and T'Challa, and they just like, I don't know, I can't tell the difference. Obviously, the taser went to his face one too many times, and but it is, and they're just like, see, 2 see holes, 2 hear holes, one eat hole. It's, I don't know. It seemed like a pretty, especially since you also just described yourself, unless you've got eat holes we don't know about.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
it seems a little disingenuous, but.
Right. But maybe he was just lazy. He's like, that looks good enough. Like, come on, what's one good? He didn't probably know the whole plan. He's like, one Terran's is good as another. I got you one of the ones you wanted. What you needed a pet, right? Here you go. It's a pet.
And I liked the point they made. It's like, look, there was so much extraterrestrial readings in this place. If it was anywhere on this planet, it was probably here.
Yeah.
Which makes sense when you think about it, that they're looking for the energy signature. But then it's like, really, so if any other random Wakandan kid had just wandered out at that time, would they have gotten abducted?
Probably.
It just, yeah. But I guess most Wakandan kids are in bed by then.
Right, and I guess that's just
showing a rule breaker.
Industrious spirit, and his exploratory nature. Of course, he was going to be the one to break the barrier and go outside.
Yeah, well, it helps when you're the prince.
Right,
it helps.
True.
When
you cut out there, Charlie.
So yeah, of course, the funny thing about being a prince is nobody cares when you break the rules. Or they do care, but they don't really do anything. So if you are the Prince of Wakanda, and you throw your vibranium spear through the never-to-be-crossed barrier, because that is the Shadowlands, and, our realm is everything the sun touches, and the dark area, do not go there. And that's actually very similar, a king story that we get here, which is, that the Lion King kind of thing is like, those are the dark places. And, and T'Challa, even then, he's like saying, why don't we share with the world? And he's saying, because the world is, monstrous. And we are lucky to be here in Wakanda where we have been blessed, but we have to be careful because the rest of the world is not as enlightened as Wakanda, which is at once true, but also maybe with that attitude, maybe not as true as they'd like it to be. When you've established paradise in Wakanda, but do not seek to bring paradise to the world, are you truly enlightened or are you simply selfish? It's an important question to ask, and we ask ourselves that every day. But, did we talk about how odd it is that humanoid aliens can't tell other humanoids from other humanoids?
Yeah.
We did talk about that, yeah. Because I do find I do think that is played for laughs and stretches credulity. Because as an example, in our very first scene, we see that they have black people in space. So. What are they going to say? Oh, all Krees look alike. Some are white, some are black, and some are blue, but they all look exactly alike to me. It's like, yeah, but that's kind of a thing you might notice. Sort of like if saying like, oh, I can't tell red hair from blonde hair. It's like, well, really, can't you?
But then again, like your brains are trained to look for certain things, right? We can spot, certain features and faces and certain things jump out at us. Perhaps in growing up with having so much variety of creatures funneling down on a humanoid just because it's a different color, maybe they only see an infrared and they can't distinguish color as well. Whole host of things that could be, responsible. I think.
I know. I just find it weird that it's a human actor who's saying that. And he's like not made to not look human. Like, so, for example, Yandu, you can say, okay, that in his species, all the differences blend together on Terrans. And Taserface, he's Taserface. He's taking a lot of tasers to the face. But, the human, really? Really? Yeah. That's the guy? They had like done two. If they had like some kind of duck species there.
Yeah.
By the way, Seth Green, amazing as Howard the Duck.
Yes, indeed.
Sounds a little like who's the older Griffin boy? But
Peter? No, not Peter. No, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm forgetting too. Yeah, it's not Stewie, but the one.
Right.
The one that Seth Green plays. Seth Green. Although I think that's just Seth Green's voice, and he just modulates it a little here and there, but he does it well. And he actually, I really want to see him doing more Howard the Duck, because he was amazing. But we'll get to that in a minute, because this is a heist film, and like the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, actually, was the first Guardians of the Galaxy a heist film? Not really, I don't think. I mean, they were...
It was more of like a prison break film.
Yeah, it was a prison break film. Yeah, really, yeah, Ant-Man was the heist. But this blends that... This gets those heist concepts very nicely. Right in, from the double cross and the triple cross and all the different crosses. It's pretty fun.
I like that they paint T'Challa as having an innate, royal air about him, that no matter what he did, he would be so great that his legends would beg people to be, fans of his.
Of course, you can then layer on top of that the idea of, because he grew up in a palace in Wakanda with the greatest tutors from the time he was 0, and Peter Quill grew up in Missouri with, a mom who worked at Dairy Queen, struggling to get by, and I think that's like the real difference. You had one person who was raised with ultimate confidence to basically be a king, and one person for whom being the Star-Lord was the story he told himself at night. Someday my real father will return. Just like they. It's not Annie who says that. But
I like that at the end they give us a little bit that Peter Quill is special too. He comes.
Oh yeah, we remember that Peter Quill is special.
Way more royal than you can imagine.
Well, exactly, and that is the thing, and that is the nature versus nurture, and which again you can say it is T'Challa's nature to be, a great man of influence wherever he goes. But really, it's also that he was nurtured in that way. Now, the real question is going to be, because I'm going to call you dimes to donuts, the real breakout at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is when he realizes that Ego killed his mom. And you're not going to tell me that this kid does not still idolize his mom. And, he might even be a lot more skilled at seeing through a guy like Ego, because, and it'll sound kind of funny, but he's been living in reality for so long that he's seen hucksters before. And he may not be as naive as Peter Quill, the Star-Lord, was, because the Peter Quill Star-Lord was a guy who just had his fantasy confirmed and got to live the Starjammer life. And, I think that somehow having been a manager at, he's the manager because the manager closes.
Fair point.
That, so to be a manager at Dairy Queen, he's been through stuff and he's rose up to his ranks for where he needed to be in that life. And hey, let's hear it that, he's working at an ice cream store, still has abs. So, obviously he has commitment to work ethic.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But, getting back to T'Challa's story. So we get the idea that there's going to be this heist. And of course, what I like is, and I'm forgetting the character's name. I'm forgetting both the character and the, actor's name, who in the original Guardians of the Galaxy says, who? When he says, there's another name you might know me by. It's Hanshu.
Jamin Hansu.
Yeah. But I can't remember his character's name either. But it's like It's something the son is it's just like Ronan the Accuser. He's somebody that chases. But anyway, that character, this world, he's a huge fan of Star-Lord.
Right.
But, and so he's like, and he's all like, oh, it's good to see you, Star-Lord. And they have their little, and then Star-Lord, of course, he says, I'm not committed to working with Ronan.
Right. I feel like as soon as he sees him, he's treating this encounter as a job interview. Letting him know, hey, look, I'm about my job. Even if I have to fight you, I'll fight you. That's how I am to whoever I am being employed by. So check me out. And just to let you know, I am a big fan of yours. But even though I'm here to do my job. And I think that's what wins T'Challa over.
Yeah. And again, within this, you see T'Challa actively listening, which I think is his real power. Is actually active listening and not dismissing someone just because he disagrees with them. Because I think that is actually the point. Because like one of the big, they nerfed Thanos. First off, they did not nerf Thanos. If you actually go back and look at Thanos in the movies, he has a very fluctuating power level. The main things we can say about him is that he's definitely bulletproof, which we still see throughout this, but he can still be hurt. And when he doesn't have his power stones, he's just another big, giant alien. And compared to other people, it's actually not as impressive as it looks, despite his super tough skin. And you can disagree on that if you want. But what I want to get to is this idea that he was able to talk Thanos down for a couple of reasons. One is that he meets him much earlier in the storyline, before he has any stones. And doesn't immediately dismiss him. Because, of course, everyone always says, that just sounds like genocide. So I get the feeling he never said, that just sounds like genocide, I think he probably said it like, okay, I understand what you were saying, that there is a finite universe and there will always be more people. But first off, and he could have made the very real point that, most populations will decrease as their wealth, as their access to education and resources increase. Because, but of course, and it's not just humans, it's other animals. And that's always the thing, is that life constantly wants to compete and will exhaust the universe. Which actually one person could even point out to him, maybe that's part of the natural cycle. And that and the real point of is if your point is you want to end suffering. Because the idea that there's a natural cycle that results in the death of the universe, what is really disturbing to us, what really irks us morally, is the disproportionate allocation of resources. And thusly, within the entire concept, it is this idea of anarcho-socialism, which is what appears to be T'Challa's argument here, is that, we rob from the rich and give to the poor, which is the basic definition of anarcho-socialism. And I think Thanos is all about that anarcho-socialism. So that is my takeaway on that.
Don't take a shortcut. Go work hard and be the change.
Exactly. It's like, wiping out half, because as people have pointed out, you wipe out half the galaxy or half the universe, so you set them back a couple of decades. If fecundity is the nature of humanity, or the nature of life, then we're just going to keep on reproducing until we get right back where we were, and then you saved us maybe 30 years. So
right.
There's the counter argument there that no, because you got rid of half the food too. So
right,
and the ability just increased the net suffering in the universe.
The food as well, yeah,
exactly. So it's like Thanos.
All the people
I don't think he thought this through
than before.
But like every good supervillain, it's not that he can't adapt; it's that he doesn't want to just be told he's wrong. He wants to know that you acknowledge his argument and want to help him achieve his goal. And if you do that with a supervillain, you can probably talk most supervillains down, because most supervillains aren't just about abject evil and villainy. They actually have a plan that they want to implement, and then you just have to say, well, okay, well, what's the best way to implement this plan? But they get this plan to essentially steal the embers of life from the Collector, who, after Thanos got out of the business of being an intergalactic warlord, which I guess is a business. I don't know. Because you never think about Thanos as a mobster, but they kind of presented as that.
And that's part of like sort of what his power also was. It was the empire that he had built, the collection of people and peoples that were part of his army that would be a threat to somebody, not just himself physically.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's the real thing. And of course, that's sort of the problem with Thanos' argument is that, I get your point about I could maybe get your point about, there's only so many resources, but when you take so many resources to feed your army, we're starting to ask, really, are you doing so good here? But, that's the idea. Collector, no compunctions. Although they did make an interesting point or Benicio del Toro made an interesting point about the Collector when he was interviewed about him, which is that he sees himself as a cosmic Noah. That he has to collect all of the rare and amazing things in this universe before the cataclysm. So
that's interesting. I didn't get that coming off of the character. I didn't get that he felt like he had a noble purpose. I got the sense that
it's not in the script. It's totally the actor.
Right, no, but even the actor, I didn't get that in the performance. In the performance, I get that he was just a spoiled rich kid who had a lot of cars.
Well, yeah, he's that too.
Fair enough.
Who says Noah wasn't a spoiled rich kid who just had a lot of animals?
Fair enough.
I gotta build myself a big old ark and put in 2 of all those animals.
Yeah, I guess.
Because who else could do it except the rich kid who had all the animals already,
Yeah, he was too playful about the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, he's also an elder of the universe. He has arguably lived for, millennia. And in living for millennia, he's gained his sense of humor about everything. That is my assumption. But
and obviously he doesn't die there, right? At the end.
No, I don't think he did because he's an elder of the universe. That's the thing. He already collected all these people, and any attempt to destroy, it's sort of like how the Grand Master. Basically, it's the same situation that the Grand Master finds himself in at the end of Ragnarok, and we already know the Grand Master is coming back in Thor: Love and Thunder. So, or at least that's been stated. So it's like, yeah, you can knock him down, but they're elders of the universe for a reason. Yeah. If killing them were that easy, they'd be dead by now. But I do think everyone really loves being animated characters because they all get to be super jacked.
Yeah.
That I think is really fun.
I wonder if he's going to feel compelled to have to try to match that now. Or
no, he'll just won't take off his jacket.
Fair enough.
You can fight with a jacket on.
Speaking of that scene, one thing I found really cool was when Yondu's arrow is caught by the Collector, and he breaks it. And then it made me immediately think of what is the mechanism by which it works. I thought he would just be able to control anything around him. Wouldn't he be able to so how does he control it? What is the thing? Is it only matched to that? Is the Bluetooth connection has to be, somebody has to get off the Bluetooth before he can connect it?
Well, actually, it is literally, it kind of is that. It's like, it's a special arrow that his species uses, and the whole head fin is the controller for it.
Right. So
remember, there's a whole thing about he got the new head fin.
So is it a mechanical thing or is it an innate biological property?
No, it's a mechanical thing. It's just a super weapon. It's basically an adamantium arrow that is self-propelled. That is psionically controlled, basically.
I just thought his species had this power that that they could control things, or maybe when they were born they got bonded to one item, and that was their arrow or something. I don't know. All these theories started.
Well, I won't say exactly what it is in the comics because I think in the comics he has he has like more than one arrow.
That would be smart, right?
Yeah, I think in the comics he's got but they've adapted it.
All right, fair enough.
And now in the comics, he looks like the guy in the movie. That's the thing. It's like no matter what you do, it always catches up with the movie.
Yeah.
Even I'm just reading right now a comic that has the Red Guardian, and he's so meant to look like the
David Harbour.
the David Harbour Red Guardian. He's got the beard and everything.
That's great.
Which, by the way, is a look I really love, and I thought that would be a great look for like a World War I Captain America too. But that's just a thing for me. All right.
World War I Captain America. Whoa, that just hit me. I just realized what you said. Huh.
Yeah, I had an idea. This was like one of my very early ideas of how far does the super soldier serum go back. And actually, as it turns out, they actually later did come up with this idea that, it actually does go back that far. And there actually is a character named Sergeant Steel.
Wow.
Sergeant Steel.
He was like an alien regalia
guy. Yeah, but he was fought in World War I and all that kind of stuff. And they've integrated him into the larger MCU comic universe now. And he's the guy that hangs out with Max Fury all the time, who is the LMD Nick Fury that became aware. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. Huh. There's a lot of stuff that Marvel's published over the years that I think a lot of times when writers at Marvel get stuck, they just say, let's go to like something we wrote in 1930. Say, okay, I'm going to take this character and I'm going to use something in this to bring it to just interject into the story. Cause I think that's going to be cool. I'm going to have some kind of callback to something I only just read right now, because
it's like beat
that's reason very few people who are writing comics today were reading comics in the 30s,
It seems a lot like these beat makers sampling songs from like the 30s and whatnot to make their modern hits.
Well, yeah, because why wouldn't you? Why reinvent the wheel when someone already made it? Why don't we just look for that wheel? And that's especially when you're making something that's inherently an aesthetic choice. You're creating something that's based off of something else from it. Like you're just looking for that piece that fits in just right here and says, you know what? I remember I read this thing. I have this bit. I have this little clip. I'm going to stick it here, and I bet you that's going to work out great. Which is why I still say I'm still waiting for them to reveal that the Red Widow is actually the 1940s Black Widow who came back in the 11. Because there's a whole that's a whole fan theory. I think they've disproved it once already, but I don't know. It could come back still. I think it's still a solid fan theory, and nothing is canon until it is. That's the first rule of all storytelling. It's not canon until it is. Because I just watched an episode of Cheers the other day where Frasier was talking about how his scientist dad died.
Oh, wow.
When he was young. Yeah.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's like, oh yeah, that's right, because no one cared about continuity back then. Because it was like, I don't know, I want to write a story for this character here. It's like, well, we're going to do another story 30 years from now. Well, I don't know that. And honestly, you can integrate my canon or you can write your own because it's more convenient for you.
Yeah,
if you write your own,
we won't have TVs.
If you write your own and it's better, no one's going to care what I wrote.
Right.
Except for one person who's going to work really hard to square the canon and make the timelines make sense.
Well, we're in a different world today.
Yeah, I don't think it's that different if you ask me. I think that eventually it all gets to where it's going.
Yep.
But oh my gosh, what show are we talking about here? Oh yes, What If?
I did expect more from Thanos. I mean, I don't know if they nerfed him or whatnot, but he got beat up by a couple of goons.
Well,
it was the
he was beat by the Black Order,
right?
Which were arguably the most elite of his previous guards. The most bloodthirsty and ruthless. Yeah.
Well, it was all right. It was nice seeing him try to make the sacrifice for his daughter. Him and Nebula having some time. I thought that was kind of adorable to let them have some good times too.
Yeah, and I think that is the the real point of this. It's about Thanos reconnecting with his daughter. It's about the family coming together, you know. I mean, it's all these things, and especially at the end when they go back to Wakanda. And because, of course, after Howard the Duck decides to stop at the bar and isn't going to take T'Challa any further, which, you know, you can walk and drink, Howard. We've seen you do it in the comics.
Well, here's the interesting question here then. If he never got taken out of Wakanda, or if he did get taken out of Wakanda, then maybe Killmonger does not, right?
Well, no, because, that's an interesting question. Would they have brought the second prince here? Maybe.
It seems to be mirroring when Killmonger walks back in and he's like, I'm home, auntie, you know, and he's like, I'm home, papa.
Yeah.
He's coming
Except
back.
much more happy about it, you know?
Right. A complete opposite. Much like, you know, this guy didn't remember Star-Lord, but this guy knows Star-Lord.
Well, you know, maybe in this universe, you know, T'Chaka didn't kill his brother.
Yeah.
Like he went and said, you know, brother, just come home.
Right.
I know what you want to do, and that is not our way.
Right.
And you can say it is your way, but you will not, or even just said, you know, you can say it is your way, brother, but you will not have the aid of Wakanda if you do this. We're not going to, you know, we have hit ourselves for a reason because as powerful as we are not going to take on the whole world. Right. You know, we're not going to take on all the wealth of all the worlds because there are also very wise and intelligent men working for the other people and they have atom bombs. You know?
Yeah.
If nothing else, if one thing you can say about the rest of the world is that we may not know how to build things that work, but we do know how to build things that destroy.
Yeah.
And if you would like to see atom bombs rained down upon Wakanda to redistribute that vibranium wealth across the world, maybe that's not the best plan for us, my brother. And that is so there's a whole other possible line there. But I do imagine that knowing that his brother had a son and T'Chaka having lost his son in this way could bring him back. Or he may have called his brother back home sooner because my son has gone missing. He's in the stars. I need all of my agents back. Yeah. Wakanda will not be out in the world as much. And I need us here working to find my son. You know, so that's another, I mean, there's so many, it's sort of like with the first What If, there's so many other things that are happening behind the scenes of this thing that, yes, this is the part you notice. This is the hook for it. But really, before we got here, there were so many other details.
So what do you think the broader picture that this is pointing to? Because, I mean, the episode was relatively simple. It was just a simple little heist. It wasn't much going on, but what are the broader implications relating to the last episode versus this episode? What patterns did you notice, or where do you think? What do you think it points to so far?
Well, right now, so first off, and this is something I've said, there's no reason to think this and the Peggy Carter universe aren't the same universe.
I like that a lot. Now, I want to wrap my head more around that.
Yeah. Now, the next episode, it very clearly is not the same universe. Oh. But just because we're in different universes doesn't mean that they can't be related universes. So, as an example, this universe could exist in the Peggy Carter universe, but that is also its own split timeline from that universe. Because once you have a universe, it's going to split and split again and split again and split again.
What points to them being in a shared universe?
There's nothing except that I know that that's something that they have done in the past.
Like the crossover Star-Lord and the crossover Peggy Carter, or?
Well, no, I mean like the idea that we're just exploring one what if to another what if to another what if. So, like, there'll even be what ifs where they actually revisit that same what if to see how that story went from there.
Gotcha. Just because the third one is a different universe does not necessarily mean that each one is a different universe.
No, it's like, how the third Halloween was a different universe, or in some interpretations, where it's
fair enough.
Doesn't mean that the rest aren't connected.
Uh-huh.
So, and what it comes down to is that there's nothing mentioned in this one that precludes the other. The only thing that sort of looks odd to a lot of people is what the collector has collected in this universe, but we don't know how many of them are authentic, because obviously he has Captain America's shield, Thor's hammer, all these things. Although, arguably, you can also, well, no, you can't do that with this third episode, but you could make arguments about, these are replicas, these are things from alternate universes that he's already pulled in.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Wasn't there like 11 million permutations where Thanos did win, and there must have been spoils of war just laid about, and if he knew the time to go back, oh, look, there's, after Thanos killed everybody, oh, let me have that shield. I'll take that too.
Yeah. Well, along those same lines, there actually is a character in original Guardians of the Galaxy, Vance Astro, who wields Captain America's shield that is still around in the 31st century. And so having that come back is actually meant to be more a callback to the original Guardians of the Galaxy, before Star-Lord was, and all these guys that, so there's an interesting thing there. So there's more that could be there. And then you could even go into this idea that, again, going to that galactic Noah's Ark, that some of these are weapons from other iterations of this universe. That he has gone to other timelines, gone to other universes to gain these collections for himself. So there's all sorts of possibilities there. Because I think some people even point out that Hela hadn't been awakened yet. How does he have all of Hela's stuff?
Time travel.
Yeah, well, exactly. Time travel, or he went to whatever realm Hela was in to steal her stuff. Or right. From the way he talks about her, it almost sounds like he met her. So it's like, yeah.
Or it's just like the TVA when Loki was trying to escape, he went to all these cataclysms, right? The same thing with him. He might be able to see, I was like, oh, okay, that's the point in history where this universe was destroyed by Thanos. I'm going to show up right at the right second and steal the artifacts that I need from actual history.
Exactly. And, the real point of this story, I think, is that everyone can be made better if you can just talk to them in an intelligent and honest way. But you don't dismiss them. You just say, I hear what you're saying. Why do you believe that? Do you think that you could be wrong? And if so, what does that mean? And how do we find a better truth for us all?
I think it also is what
which is how you know this is science fiction.
Fair enough. Good point. I also think what was interesting about the way T'Challa handled that was that he came in listening to him, understanding him, but he also brought a solution. He said, hey, I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I think that's like an inefficient way to do it. Let me show you this way. You think this would still fit and get you what you want? And once he had a solution and a narrative to supplant himself into where he still feels like the person he wanted to be and still gets the goals accomplished, and he was able to find a compromise. And I think that was really interesting.
I think it's that interaction. Go back to gardening.
Yeah. Isn't that what you want, really?
That's what he wanted. He wanted to garden. He just, he's a simple farmer,
I wish we would have gotten some of that in there rather than him just becoming a hired gun,
Yeah. There's virtue in a cabbage. Even elves eat, I suppose. That's a line from a very good song by Mercedes Lackey. So, it's called, I forget what it's called, but it's on the album Cabbages and Kings. And it's about a cabbage farmer who once saw fairies dancing and how overwhelmed he was by the beauty. And, but he knows what he does. He grows cabbages, and he still grows cabbages, but just once he'd love to grow a silver rose. But anyway. But yeah, that's
sounds like that into a patch of mushrooms.
Yeah, probably. I mean, hey, you drink the bog water, you get what you get. Right. But anyway, but I really liked this episode. I mean,
it was okay. Like I really enjoyed the first one. This one I thought was cool. It was all right. Yeah. I didn't think it was anything.
I think what makes this episode good is the weight of a change. And I think what makes it even, and I guess maybe, and obviously, it's that Chadwick Boseman, the Chadwick mystique on this, that because it's, his last thing, that he gets to be Superman, but also that he gets to be just the talking Superman. He's like, he is a Superman. He is the last son of Wakanda. And he has come here from this presumably destroyed world to bring hope to the galaxy. And his superpower is just being able to talk and listen. And I think that is honestly a beautiful thing in and of itself, especially for what is essentially what is a very talky medium, which is comic books and even animation. I think it's often fun to think about. Oh, it's just bish and bang, but really, most of what sells comic books is the dialogue. You can have a beautiful art piece in it too, but I think the stories and the way that people can find depth and meaning in things is important. So that to me is its greatest gift, is this idea of what if Superman was just really good at talking people off of ledges.
I mean, realistically, that only gets you so far. You could handle like Spider-Man neighborhood level crime that way.
Well, no, unless you
Well, I guess they showed us that Thanos can also be talked down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You just have to get in the room. If Superman can get in the room and talk you down, maybe there's nothing Superman could do. If Superman were a better talker, maybe the world would be a better place. If he hadn't been raised by some kids in Kansas.
Let's not put that all on Superman. If we were better, we would have a better world. Let's not,
Well, exactly. If we all wanted to be, if we all wanted to be Superman, the world would be full of Supermen.
Even though we have one of them out there being Superman, none of us wants to be Superman. So what does that say about us?
Yeah, well, that's what Lex Luthor says. None of us are going to be super if Superman's always there to take out the trash.
Well, no. What I'm saying is the opposite of that. Look, they have a shining example, and still no one wants to do it. So what hope can you have for any of us to want to do that? If there wasn't any Superman, would we be even worse? Would there be hope? I don't know.
Well, I guess, but I guess that's why T'Challa and Cap, either Carter or Rogers, are not Superman. They're never meant to be someone who can they have that superhuman fight and they keep on getting back up, yada, yada, yada. As I always say about Thanos, you can say what you want in this fight, but he keeps on getting back up. And, that is what makes you a hero, is that willingness to dedicate yourself to the betterment of all. And, even if you can't do much, just saying, I'm going to do everything I can to make the world better. I will make sure that the world is not worse because of me. And that's what makes you a hero. Arguably. At least in comic books, so.
Yeah. Almost seems like you can go about living your life, but you got to recognize that there will come a moment where you get an opportunity to decide, are you a hero or not? Recognize those moments and be ready to jump in. Whatever that means.
2 or 3 times.
Right.
2 or 3 times. Okay, Mozz. On that note, as we reference the great Deadpool, if people would like to reach out to you, find you, talk to you about all the wonderful things we talk about, how can they do so?
Well, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And you can always write to me that old-fashioned email way the way our mothers and fathers once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters. I live tweet Stargirl, which I did do this Tuesday, @Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality.
Ding. Thank you, Mozz. Ladies and gentlemen, for another day, another moment, to have seen what could be and what was not. And to that we say, 'Nuff said.